I'm Peter. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, where we take the mystery out of the tarot and help you bring this ancient practice into everyday life. In this podcast, we'll talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So grab your tarot deck, get comfortable, and start your journey to tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter, and welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. As always, when we've got a guest joining us, Bonnie and I are super excited. However, today we're excited because we actually got to personally experience Nancy Antenucci's expertise. So we first met Nancy in person, actually, at the Kingston Tarot Lenormand conference back in November. And we were so moved by what she was working on and what she taught us that, I don't know, Bonnie, I think we signed, before the end of the conference, we had already signed up to a second workshop she was giving in Toronto just a couple of days later. So to tell you a little bit about Nancy Antenucci. So she is a seasoned tarot reader and a teacher of visionary strategies. Her take on the tarot is both unique and innovative. She has shared her knowledge, her passion, her storytelling worldwide. She's a published author. Her book, Psychic Tarot, Using Your Natural Psychic Ability to Read the Cards, is a groundbreaking book. It's been printed. It's been reprinted. This book is actually the culmination of decades of teaching and mentoring and infused with practical know-how. Her newest creation is tarot rituals, ceremonies, ideas, and experiences for the tarot lover. And with close to 100 ideas, rituals, and ceremonies, it is for tarot lovers of all levels. She founded the Minnesota's Twin Cities Tarot Collective, which produces the Human Be-In, an annual cyber event, as well as the North Star Tarot Conference, an annual creative lab, exploring the many languages of tarot. The energy, the effort, the passion of building a community using tarot as the centerpiece is her Judgment's trumpet call. And we get to have her here today on Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome.
Hello. Yay. Where's my bell? I don't know.
I know, right?
Oh, here, let me ring. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. Could you hear that?
No. Ding.
No, okay. You can't hear it on Zoom. Nancy, we're so excited to have you.
Me too. When I met you two at the conference, I went, wow, they're fun. Oh yeah, they're fun. So let's play.
Let's play. It was funny because I remember we had breakfast together one morning, and I think you had just come up to us and said, "Hey, do you mind if I sit here?" And I think Bonnie and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, like Nancy Antenucci is going to join us for breakfast. Okay, sure, by all means, come and sit here.
We're trying to be all cool. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
And then after we're like, oh my God, she sat with us.
It was like being in the cafeteria at high school all over again.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
And I have to say, at the conference, I had the most incredible opportunity to have a reading with you, Nancy, and your reading blew my mind. It was incredible. And you have such amazing insights. So anybody that's ever thinking about reaching out to you, your guidance was phenomenal. So thank you for that.
I love readings. I'm going to do readings till the day I cross, probably. Maybe the day before, but
maybe the day before. How did you even get into tarot? We'd love to know what started this journey for you.
Well, really, location is everything. So I was in a very small conservative town, Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Now it is where the Slinkies came from, so that's something. But other than that, I went to a Catholic school. We lived right next to a Catholic church. My dad was, very involved with opening the church up and things like that. So very, very strong Catholic structure. And so my mom, she's cross, but she's a very intelligent and curious person. And I would do things like astrology and phrenology, which is head bumps. And, like we would explore alternative things together. And she knew that I was very image. Like if she read a story, I see a whole movie, I just think in images. So she got me a deck, and I was about, I don't know, 9 or 10.
Wow.
And we had a show and tell at school. And so I brought my cards to the show and tell. And our thank God it was the lay teacher, not a nun. The lay teacher was pregnant at the time. And I think she was just humoring me, like, go ahead. And I didn't know what I just let the pictures talk. That's what I thought. I didn't know they had definitions or anything. So I just laid cards and I said, just a little something is going to be different with the baby, just a little something. And Mom told me if they work that she would take the cards. So it was like, then Miss Bagani had the baby and it was deaf in one ear. And so, or there was a malformed ear or something like that, but I didn't know Miss Bagani had a couple miscarriages. So at that point she was like, oh, good. There's just a little something with the baby. That means I'm going to have the baby. Not that she was putting that much stock into what a 10-year-old was reading. However, when she did have the baby and told my mom, Mom took the cards. So, and I wasn't that attached to him. See, my whole job, really, I was born in a lot of ways to be a famous dancer for my mom. So my mom, she was really, Martha Graham, Agnes B. DeMille, all these famous dancers all had really, really moms in the background that were really kind of pushing them into their destiny. And so I never took anything else seriously. It was like I had to be a dancer, and I wanted to be a dancer. Music does something to me. So the cards went away, and I didn't pick them up again until my early 20s. I was in a dance company in central Pennsylvania, and I was really not in a good place, just mentally. My whole world had come crashing down beforehand. And I was with a friend of mine who I worked at the restaurant with. And, he said, hey, have you ever done tarot cards? And I thought, I haven't even thought of those since I was, younger. And he laid them all out. And then he took a book and he started reading. And I was like, just looking at the cards. And I just went, okay, Jeff, don't talk right now. And I was just like, and the magician card just radiated at me. I looked at this magician card and I realized, oh my God, you're the one I want to be in love with. It was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Like I'm feeling the same thing I always feel with somebody I was attracted to, but it was a 2x4, and the magician basically said, just don't do anything to yourself, follow us, and so it was that life and death kind of thing that changed the whole way that I approach tarot. I've never doubted myself for a minute. I can learn a lot from other people, and there's certainly things that, other people have down that I really need to take in, but literally on some level, tarot actually may have saved my life. So I've never doubted it, and I've always been able to kind of follow it the way I want to follow it. Unlike a dance career where you're constantly in the hierarchy and you have to you're a little soldier really, and not, and I do see that when I finally got together with other people. So I was self-taught for years because back then there wasn't internet and there certainly weren't that many books.
Right.
So I just let the pictures talk to me. I just learned from the images. And when I got more serious about it, I got a deck. It didn't have the little white book in it. So again, I feel like the universe was saying, we don't want you to go traditional here. So I had to kind of create my own language with them. And I made some big mistakes along the way. It's just like, boundaries is a good thing, so it's like, Yeah, that was like I had a few years to learn that, but I love teaching. To me, anyone that I get to teach to or read for is empowering their own divine power. It's like finding the language for their divine power, and it for a lot of us, it's not going to be tarot. It's going to be something else, and it doesn't matter to me. It's just that tarot is my tool because it's images.
Yeah, but in the few minutes though that you help others connect to the tarot though, and one of the things because I find having listened to you speak and having sat in a workshop is although it is you say that it's your world, it's how you connect, but for those few minutes you also make it easy for others to connect even if it isn't the modality in which they might connect with divination because I find you have a very innovative approach, and yet there's so much depth and knowledge when you talk about and practicality when you talk about how the cards speak to you, and then get through extension how somebody else can use the cards. I don't know if that makes sense or if that
Oh,
resonates with you at all, but
no, that really, thank you. That's such a high compliment. I have a bottom line. Here's my bottom line for me is, do you trust the cards enough to ask them if that meat is still good to eat? Like one day I was sitting in the kitchen and I smelled, it was a little weird, but not too weird. And I thought, am I going to food poison my whole family here or what am I? And I pulled some cards and I went, oh, how many readers do that? Really trust that this hamburger meat I'm going to eat is not bad. And it is that it's got to be that real for me. It has to be, because the divine is always us, so it's like if you can't jump in and out of that real quick or actually be led by it most of your day, you're missing a lot of energy that really, I think tarot and all of these tools are literally for us to remember we're divine. It's permission to be as powerful as we really are, because we're getting bombarded by messages about how that is not the case. And it's like, we don't need any more of that. We need confidence.
I love that, Nancy. That shifted for me as well. When I started working with the tarot, I started the same. I got a tarot. Well, I was a little bit older. I was a teenager when I got my first tarot deck. I didn't necessarily connect with it. And then years later, I discovered the tarot, started working with it, and it totally changed my life. And I think why is because the messages were like, shine your light, don't be afraid, stop hiding. Like, it wasn't giving me terrifying messages that bad things were going to happen. It was showing, like, it was basically reflecting back to me what was happening in my external environment and encouraging me to show up as me. And even to do a podcast with tarot, I'm like you. I grew up in a very strict Catholic family, and I'm still afraid. I'm like, what are my cousins or aunts and uncles going to think if they find out that, I read tarot, right? And I'm like, I can't keep hiding a part of me that is helping me to live now, right? Like, I feel like I wasn't living before. And now the thing that scared me the most is actually helping me break through those fears. So I love how you put that, Nancy. It's so true.
But there was a moment, there really was a judgment moment in those early days in central Pennsylvania with the dance company, and I'm losing my mind. And then the magician says, hey, guess what? We're here. And it's like, okay, I really had to have literally a come to Jesus talk with Jesus. Like, am I allowed to do this? Is this, this is all the doors are opening here. Is that going to be cool? And Jesus said, who do you think opened the doors for you? And I said, seriously? Like, there's going to be lots of gods and goddesses here. And he goes, so? He's no problem with that, and I feel like, honestly, I got to tell you, I feel like I've turned more people back to Jesus in a real way. Like, how are you really going to use a master teacher? How are you really going to let someone show you what divine love is? Because I tell people I love him. I don't like his family. You know,
or
and
or
that
the
happens with
or
a
his
lot of
neighbor
these
or his
dogs.
neighborhood sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what?
that's a good
And
point.
actually, Jesus to me is the King of Cups because, well, mainly because
Yeah.
walking on water was my favorite trick that he did. You know, it's like, okay, that's a cool trick. And then with the wine, turning the water into wine. So it's
Mhm.
like this guy had something to do with water.
Yeah. But
I love that,
yeah, that's
Nancy.
I know.
yeah, that's actually, that's and again, the symbolism of the cup itself.
That's
Um,
right.
and yeah, and I always think that idea because Bonnie knows that my connection to the King of Cups, and I always think of a Ted Lasso, but I think of that
Ted has
outward,
a very Christ
right?
conscious.
Exactly. It's guided by love, right?
Yeah,
It's empathetic. It's
that's right.
compassionate to
Mhm.
everyone. That's a really I had not see, like, for people who are listening and watching, the learning that comes when you talk to Nancy. I had
Yeah.
never made that connection, and I think maybe to a T right now. I think every guest we've had so far, when they talk about where they're coming from, most are coming from a structured religious background of some kind. I'm the same. I grew up and was raised Catholic. I actually started my education career as a Catholic teacher. I taught. um uh, I did youth ministry on
Ooh,
Sundays. Like, that's,
you would have been one of the sub teachers we loved.
it's possible. It could be.
Yeah.
And he had a deck of tarot cards in his drawer
Oh
that
I
nobody knew about. I
as
love that.
I did as a principal, I always had a deck of tarot cards in my office as far as seeking guidance
my
goes.
God.
But this is the thing: when now I was working in a non-Catholic and non-denominational board, I shifted
Right.
and worked in the public schools. And for us here in Canada, or at least in Ontario, we've got kind of two systems. But I was so self-conscious, afraid, whatever language you want to use, for people to discover that important part of who I am. And
Yeah.
to use your words, because they connect so much to me, is how I would connect to divine and divine knowledge, and how I would almost open myself up to my own higher self through the cards. I was afraid to show that part of me. No one knew. No one knew, with the exception of one. Remember one student who was kind of toying with cards and actually got
Mhm.
sent to the office. Now, not because of the cards, but because they were doing it during class and trying to look at, because the King of Cups to me is the penultimate leader. And
Mhm.
I would have approached that with compassion and said, "Oh, tell me a little bit of what we have here," and not letting on that I knew exactly what it was. And then called her mom later that day and said, "Listen, I just want to tell you, that your child came in to the office with, something they had with them that was kind of distracting." Mom was like, "Ah, I know, she had her tarot deck out, right?" I said, "She did." I said, and we talked a little bit about her response, and then I felt comfortable to say, "Just want to let you know, I actually have a side tarot practice." Now, this was a mom who identified as pagan, so
Yeah.
immediately supportive. And I said, I would happily sit down, have an open, safe space for her to come in and chat. Some of the best conversations we had were, around tarot. It's so, and I still remember the school, and the student would probably be, I haven't never run into them, but they would probably be in their mid to late 20s. And I'd be curious to run into them now, because I'm sure they don't know they are the only person ever that I came out of the broom closet with in any kind of school setting. So
Wow.
anyway, sorry, that was a
No, that's
long-winded
beautiful.
story, but it
No,
just,
it's beautiful.
oh, your
I
King of
really do
Cups.
think
Oh,
the kids now, I started teaching after COVID. I just thought, wow, we are losing ways to read each other's cues energetically.
mm,
Like it's all becoming cyber, which is also kind of cool. It's like we have cyber personalities, but you're not smelling someone. You're not, you know what I mean? They're just
yeah,
all
of
the
course.
animal instincts are gone.
Right.
So the cues. So to read each other's cues, I realized, wow, if I went to a store or something, people had a hard time even maintaining eye contact with me and stuff. And I went, oh boy, we're losing connection with each other. So I thought, I'm going to start the tarot lab. And every month and just leave it open to donation only. This is not about me making money. This is about me creating a safe space consistently where people can really just play with tarot, explore it, and it grew from and the first time I did it, like for the first 6 months, only like 5 people would show up. And my ego really took a beating. It was like, wait, I'm an international teacher. And again, I wasn't doing it for the money, but I guess did not know I was kind of doing it for, the adoration.
Mm.
I am an Aries, so ego is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to us.
The whole phrase, I am the end.
Baby. Yeah. My hand, it's
now,
wonderful.
How long did you have the tarot lab for? And it's because
I still do it now. I do it, and we're up to 25 people.
Wow. What a fantastic, safe, safe experience, right?
Shock. It was shock. Because people would really go to their phones during the class. And I was just like, wow, I am so old school. It's like, no, I don't want you looking up definitions. So I had to figure out how to do this without threatening them or being an authoritarian, but getting them to a place where I knew they'd have to just kind of trust what wants to come through them. They don't have to manage that. They just have to allow it. Mm-hmm. And that's a different... And I think, thank God I'm this age, thank God I'm, an older woman that can, has just been thrown up a wall 1,000 times with bad teachers. And they're the best teachers. Bad teachers are the best ones if you're going to be a teacher, because then you can kind of go, don't do that. And don't do that.
Yep.
So I really learned a lot from a lot of teachers. It's like, hey, and not just tarot teachers, dance teachers were infamous for being judgmental or critical or just small.
Yeah.
And if you're small, your students are going to be small.
Yeah. That's a really good point, actually. That is a really good point.
Yeah. So what I ideally would love to do is go around the world and kind of do tarot labs and show people certain templates they can use so they can do their own. They can meet as a group. And you don't need the teacher, you just need the ideas. Now, it's very Montessori. Montessori's like that too. Yeah. It's like, no, she doesn't have a desk in front of the classroom. She is, in the circle with them. And Maria Montessori is my heroine. They hired her back in Italy in the industrial days to teach factory workers how to work harder. So they brought in this smart woman that could figure out systems and figure out how to get people to do certain things. And she learned so much by really watching them that she realized, wait, they're really open. So she started teaching poor kids, and they started doing better than kids that were in really great classes. Simply because she was really respecting their spirit from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. It's like all they're doing is remembering their spirit, and I have to get out of the way of that. I can't interfere with that.
Yeah, and her educational philosophy is amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now, can I ask you a question? And you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about, so if we're thinking of the tarot as a concept, what do you think the potential for tarot can be? Like,
I'm still trying to find that. Like every Sunday, I go to a studio that is in this. No one's there Sunday morning, so I can scream. I can do whatever I want in this building. Like, thank God it got me through COVID beautifully. But it was like I'll lay cards in a big circle. I'm trying to figure out how to use the energy of tarot is it a walkie-talkie? Can we talk to ETs with it? Can we talk to other galactic beings? How can we be the energy of tarot? So if you're I've been doing this every Sunday. A lot of times it just ends up being a movement meditation, and the cards really just say, I just get really great messages for the week. But every once in a while, there's only been 2 breakthroughs. And every once in a while, the breakthrough is amazing. Like One time I was laying there, had the cards in a big face down in a big circle on the floor, laying in the middle of it. And I just went, okay. And by then I was really impatient. I said, show me something, God damn it. It's like, I want something to happen here. And I pulled the Six of Cups. And so I just opened up the energy of the Six of Cups. And then all of a sudden the room changed and I could see buildings moving in like a set piece, like a theater piece, like the whole back of the card was starting to come in. And I went, oh my God, if those two little people show up, I'm going to freak out, and then I went, oh no, I don't care about the two little people. I don't need, it was weird, but I could smell the air when the earth was that young. I could, the colors were different. I could hear different things. So that was earth back in 1400s. And she was different then. And it was like, oh my God, this is earth energy coming up and just talking to me. And it was like, I don't need to meet the people of that time. They don't understand planes and radiation. And I don't want to describe it either. It's like, again, there's something about the bigger force that I think it's really unexplored. I feel like they're portals. So how do we, and people have been using them as portals, but for a lot of inner growth. And I'm like, but what could that be for the collective?
Like external connections from a more.
Yeah, like a networking.
Yeah.
Because the two things I've noticed with people that are drawn to tarot is that they're usually introverts. So it doesn't really draw a lot of extroverts. It's usually introverts and uber communicators. So either they really are great at communicating or they really value communication, and it's like, okay, we're a special ilk. So how do we bring it to the next? Is there another level here?
Nancy, I love that. Your energy is so infectious. Like I can feel it in my body. And what I love so much about how you teach and the way you talk is it does have this visceral experience listening to you. And you do a lot of embodiment of the tarot. And I can sense that with these practices that you were doing in this studio. How would you what advice would you give to somebody who wants to embody the energy of a tarot card? Like, would you have them pick it intentionally? Would you have them draw a card? And then how would you guide them to actually physically feel what that energy feels like from the card?
Oh, that's a great question. Because it's so
I just
needed.
Thought of it.
It's so needed. So I would say go Tai Chi. So like pull a card. And I would say randomly ask your divine counsel or your own inner wisdom, however you open up to your divinity, and ask for what your body really needs you to understand right now. So it's very, and then pick a card randomly. So let's say you picked the Seven of Swords, that guy sneaking away with.
He's my stalker.
I know. I hate that Seven of Swords. But anyhow, like you would take whatever that card actually makes you feel like. You don't have to take the pose of him. You can take that feeling of deception or I'm getting away with shit or, or stalker or, like whatever that is, and start with that pose.
I can feel that.
Yes, start with it. And then for like 5 minutes, just put on some really cool soundtrack, preferably just nature, like waves or a thunderstorm or, an elemental, not an instrumental, and then move real slow to what your body wants to do with that energy, and just move as slow as possible and don't direct your body. Let your body direct you. And then see what pose you end up in. That's the one. That's where it goes in the end, is like your body. And so then close your eyes and go, okay, and this makes me feel, and this makes me sense, and this makes me think of what. So you're really using your body as the wisdom
Like,
I got to tell you, a pet peeve
Yeah.
of mine is when people call their bodies meat puppets. I just
Oh.
go livid because it's like, this is the most sacred horse that we have. What?
Right.
Our spirits pick these bodies in particular, and it's kind of like, no. If there is an oversoul and there's like a million Antenucci's happening right now, I'm glad I got this horse. It just like, this is the aspect I work with. Although I got to tell you, since COVID, the timelines, what I've noticed are the timelines are doing this. So I'll read for somebody and all of a sudden they're talking to me as their medieval self. And it's like, what is happening here? And it's like, well, because different influences need, not only do some of the timelines need us, but we actually need them.
mhm.
If you're not seeing this is who I was in the past or the future, but everything's happening all at once.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, when Trump got in, I went medieval. A medieval time. It was like 1450. My name was Wren. I know about her. And frankly, if this is just pure imagination, hey, it works. So who cares? It's like, it feeds me and supports me.
Mhm.
And she just kind of goes, no merchant should be a leader ever. And I thought, honey, merchants are running our country,
Mhm.
So it's like, now she had different solutions. But what I love about her is, wow, this shit really does just keep happening.
Yeah.
Like this
It's
is our
it's the practical, I guess, or maybe it's the expression of history repeats itself. That expression.
It really does.
Right. It's.
However, if you hold your light higher, like if we're literally, I love Taoism. To me, is though Taoists, I think, understood our bodies as energy better than any other. And I've looked and searched and reached, and as a dancer, as a body, who understands how this body works? And to me, it's the Taoists. Because they do see they even see each organ as its own energy. It's its own spirit.
Mm.
And there's a whole meditation called the inner smile where you go in and you thank each of your organ systems. You know why? Because one of them is going to kill you. So if you're good friends with them, the death isn't going to be that drastic. And I thought, who the hell thinks like this?
Yeah.
Like, what were you guys thinking back then? It was just amazing to me that, yes. And so that's my big breakthrough with tarot, is blending it with Taoism and knowing, wait, our lungs are the swords, the air card. Our kidneys are the water, the cups. Like our bodies are, the different elements. Like, let's go deeper with that, with our organs and bones even.
And it's much harder not to like your body when you're attaching that level of importance and higher
learning
purpose to it, right?
Yeah, how to respect your body.
Right.
Really
exactly.
respect, whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
But respect it absolutely in the energy that it is.
Yeah. Sorry, Bonnie, I cut you off there.
No, I was just going to go back to when you were talking about embodying the card. Like, you can really see how energy can shift in the body when you do that, and you can really clear things. So if you do have the Seven of Swords, because that is my stalker card, and I consider that my hiding card, I could picture myself like hiding, and then like, how can I move that energy so that I don't have to hide anymore? Like, that is brilliant. You're blowing my mind, Nancy.
And you never know where your body might even go, you know what, hiding's important. So we're going to really get into this adventure. So you can't approach it with negative or positive. True. You just want to stay way open to what your body's feedback is.
Yeah. Amazing.
That embodiment.
Yeah. Now we talked about movement and about body. And I do want to ask you a non-tarot question. You had a reel, I think, on TikToker that was all about body movement and dance. And can you tell us that? Because as somebody who is I mean, I know it's a connection with 80s music, and a lot of our listeners
That's
and,
right.
and watchers will know I play in an 80s cover band. I'm
That's right.
a child of the 80s. I was, 13
That's
when
right.
the 80s started, 23 when they ended. All of basically my formative years were the 80s.
That's
And
right.
I would love you to share that story, because I think it's such a fascinating one.
I love telling the story. Well, I turned 22 in the 80s, so I was a young adult, and it was Reagan and AIDS. Those two were the big, and I was in dance companies at the time. So I was actually, yeah, 3 best friends died of AIDS. So it was, death was in our face like that. And also they cut grants for the arts. It was, so we danced to kind of stay sane. We didn't dance to look pretty. We danced to like work out devils, is really what it felt like. I called it not exercising, it was exorcising, and so, I had been on TikTok for 3 or 4 years and not really had 300 followers, and it just felt like I was going into a gym and screaming is really that was my experience of TikTok. And I wasn't really checking out other creators that much either. And then, the Uvalde massacre happened with those beautiful children. And I just happened to read their bios, and every one of them loved TikTok. Every one of them was learning how to dance on TikTok. And I went, oh my God, Nancy, people are at least dancing. This is the one place where they can dance, and people are very supportive. They're not judgmental. Everyone's trying the new challenge, right? So I thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to go off TikTok. I'll just pay. And one day my son came up and he goes, hey, Mom, look at this challenge, because they give you challenges. And they said, ask your mom how she danced in the 80s. And it was to the Bronski beat. And I just went, what? Are you like, drop the mic? What? I could do that in my sleep, And so I just said, let's tape it right now. I had sweatpants on. I was 40 pounds overweight. I'm no makeup. I'm like, yeah, do it, girl. I'll make my 300 people very happy. And he taped it, and I just lost it. I just pretended I was back in the club, and I was dancing with Dennis, and I had my rum and Coke earlier, and I was just, boom, we're surviving Reagan. I just went right back into that frame. And then 2 hours later, it had hit almost 1 million. And I just went, what is happening? So, and it's right now, it's 36.7 million views.
Wow.
And people were like, that's exactly how we danced in the 80s.
Totally.
Or I didn't know old people could move like that. Or, it was fabulous. And it kind of broke open something. And here's the catch, though. And a lovely catch. Right before Mother's Day. So I know my mom on the other side said, you know what? You are a famous dancer. So I know
that's right.
I know she pulled the strings there, and because I said, "Thank you, Evelyn." It's like that. So, yeah, that really opened up a whole door for me. And it really made me look at reality different. Like my oldest brother, Steve, said, okay, Nance, let's just pretend like you're 13 years old and mom's driving you to the next town so you can take your jazz and ballet class once a week. And it was a 40-minute trek each way. And there were 2 radio stations. And what if someone whispered in your ear, when you're 66, you're going to be dancing for millions of people, just that. And he said, and at that time, there wasn't even that many people that watched an NFL football game, much less. And it really kind of opened my mind look at how much we've grown. Just the way that we can communicate with each other and the way that we can reach each other. I never even thought of it like that. It was just mind blowing, because where is that going to be 10 years from now?
Well, exactly. Right. And a simple act in a lot of ways, and not to put words in your mouth, but as a professional dancer, I would imagine that, the act of dancing itself for you is probably much easier than it is for somebody else. But then you think of the influence that action had for the 30 plus, or at least some of the 30 plus millions who saw that, whether, it's the questions you said, oh my goodness, look at how they dance in the 80s, or, how does somebody at that, with that age move, like all of those things where somebody is going, oh my goodness, this has really had an impact.
Yeah.
Just
And I'd get
broadens
all
it
these
out.
beautiful private
Oh,
messages from younger women that said, I lost my mom. This is exactly how she danced in the kitchen.
yeah.
And things like that. And I just went, oh, this is I didn't even
Yeah.
see, if you don't attach the outcome to what you think is success, if you let that stay open and let spirit just have, I feel like in some ways, I feel like Chariot. Like all we have to do is get in the chariot. We don't have to drive it. Like he's not even really holding on to the reins in some cards. It's just let your spirit, you and your spirit figured this all out. And it's not like a destined path because we have free will every inch of the way. But if you really trust it, it's like, God, you're going to just, let the doors open instead of feeling like this. So when you attach outcomes, they're always going to be, I think, smaller than what could actually happen. So you're actually limiting yourself from the get-go with your goal.
Yeah.
So I never would have saw that happening. I just knew that if those poor little children from Evaldi had the joy and experience of dancing before they left this planet, then who am I to judge? And that just opened another door. I let go of that judgment. It opened a whole door with a whole bunch of people not judging me.
And look at how many people you're inspiring. Like if your son had said, okay, I'm going to record this thing, and you're like, oh, well, let me go put on some makeup and change my clothes and try to show up differently. Like you showed up how you were in that moment, and people love to see that, right?
Because I know they do. Yeah.
Because it gives them permission to be themselves and not have to show up in a certain way.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And now since then, so I'm like, no, I'm going to have fun myself now, because a couple of people said, no, keep doing that same song, but and I thought, no. I need to enjoy what I'm doing. That's what makes it authentic,
Oh, yeah.
So I did start putting on different costumes and shit because it's the 80s.
Totally.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like, it just
first one.
It gives people permission to just be who they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I make it a point to watch because you've done other dance reels since then and put them up.
Yeah.
I make it a point to watch everyone. And for me, again, and the connection is the music, of course.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
like, oh my goodness, and I remember seeing the Bronski Beat one for the first time, and that, that intro keyboard line, that
oh God,
ran through my head as an earworm for hours, but it brought so much joy because I was able to think, oh, I can remember times where I'd have been in a club or I'd have been somewhere and I heard that, like it,
right.
Because it is music that is 40 plus years old for a lot of it. 40. Am I doing my math?
But it really
right?
held the energy of just trying to keep us together.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that I always call it that almost, that new romantic, almost, it was kind of gothy, but it had a bit of an edge to it.
That's right.
Yeah, it was.
I especially kind of lean more to British too.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
Yeah. You're right in my, The Cure, The Clash.
That's right. Boingo, boingo.
Oh my goodness, there we go. Dead Man's Party. Perfect. Of course, like Danny Elfman, though, right now, massive soundtrack guy. Like he's done everything. Look at this. See, people, you come here, you get everything here. Dance, music, soundtrack, tarot. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Nancy, I want to ask you a quick question before we move on to picking our cards.
Yes.
Because we love to do that at the end of the show. I have both of your books, of course.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, which are amazing. Your tarot rituals book is phenomenal because it has so many different rituals and ceremonies. If someone was just starting out and they were like maybe not so familiar with doing ritual work or ceremonies, where would you advise that they start? And then you could also tell us if you even have a favorite ritual in that book.
Oh, lovely. Actually, I would tell them to start out with Psychic Tarot, the first book.
Okay.
That's what I would say. It's like, why don't you go there first? Because just understanding how I'm the bigger picture, because in the tarot rituals, I would say it is a little bit more intermediate. I
Right.
don't,
Okay.
I don't give definitions of the book cards or any, you really have to have kind of a basic understanding.
Okay.
But even then, it's a way of learning a basic understanding. So I would say, I think the golden oldie for me is the essence spread, where you put the cards in their suits,
Mhm.
the court cards and the major arcana, and you pick each one. You go through a visualization where you're picking each one to know, like, who are you as a magician? What are your tools saying to you right now? Because they say something different. So in terms of where I would start as a ritual, I would say the essence spread.
Okay.
My favorite one, though, and I do it every year, is my birthday council. But I use Ellen Lorenzi Princess's Dark Goddess Tarot. So not only am I getting I go into the studio the week before my birthday, I say goodbye to the council I was working with. And then I go fallow for a week. But the day before my birthday, usually, or the birthday, I'll separate all the cards in their suits, or sometimes I don't. It depends on how I'm going to pick the cards. But then I go to each direction to see how I'm guided for the year. And then I use my birthday card, the year card. So I'm in the year of temperance right now.
Right.
Okay.
So I use that as the main focus, but the 4 directions. How am I doing that intellectually, creatively, emotionally, and physically? And then I talk to them every Sunday. So then they become my divine counsel for the year. But I use the Dark Goddess Tarot to do that. So I like faces on my divinity. I like to be able to talk to, even though if it's all one and it's all me, fine, but I still need to be able to talk to someone. So it's just like so that's my favorite. I love the birthday council. I think your birthday is a perfect time for a tarot reading. If you do nothing else, just your birthday alone.
I love that.
Yeah, you're here. What are you doing?
I do, excuse me, I do a birthday spread for myself every year. I do a 13 card spread. And then every month, so it's kind of like, what energy am I going to work with in that month?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the start of the new month, I'll pull that card. And then I have my sort of energy card for the year, like the overarching energy. But I love how you create this council and then you have this as your guiding principle for that whole year. I think that's fascinating. Like, Nancy, I wish I could live in your brain because you just have the most incredible, fascinating ideas and you just keep blowing my mind with all of this stuff.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree.
There's a golden question that James Wells asked me when I first met him. And I went to my first reader studio and I was like surrounded by tarot, the heights of the tarot world. And I'm like, oh Lord, do I belong here? I'm sitting at a chair or table with him. And I told him, he said, well, what? I said, I don't know. I feel really weird. He goes, well, tell me what you kind of think of tarot. And I told him of all the things that I would like to do with tarot. And he goes, what's wrong with you? He said, like, you have such a great imagination. He goes, how about this? What is your greatest tarot fantasy? And that I have not answered that yet. That question liberated me. I don't even want to know the answer. I'm just going to keep that, like, put me on a whole trek that I didn't even know existed. Is just, what is my greatest tarot fantasy? I think to be tarot. Just to be it.
To be it. To
really somehow, I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out some Sunday. Said the Aries to the rest of the galaxy.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, what?
Thanks, James. Thanks, James, for the guidance, for the question.
Thanks.
Totally. Well, and James Wells, who I would probably identify as my certainly biggest early mentor in the tarot, is the number of, I almost think if there's a tarot practitioner that I'm familiar with that embodies wisdom, and I think I've talked to Bonnie about James before. It's almost, anytime he almost opens his mouth and talks tarot, you're just gobsmacked listening to what he has to say. Like
so seasoned.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
agree.
God.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Like a good wok pan. You just can't beat it. If it's really seasoned and old, it's like anything you put in there is going to taste good.
Yeah, for sure. There's no question. There's no question. We may have had a similar experience at Reader Studio because, I was the same, sitting around and going, oh my goodness, like who are,
yeah.
We may have actually met previously to read, because I can remember you talk about the idea of moving tarot and embodying. And I remember being there I only went 1 year and experiencing James doing just that, like moving. I can't remember what card he had kind of made himself, but that idea of moving. And there was another group of people. I got to go back now and look at my pictures and wonder, I'm going, I wonder if it was Nancy who was in there. So anyways.
Wow. Do you remember, was there a show during the dinner banquet?
Probably, but this is 15 years ago now, right? We're talking 2010. So
yeah, we were doing it.
That was the one. We were
doing all these storytelling at dinner time.
Yes. That was, yeah. Oh. And you talked about that council and all I could picture when you said, I go to the directions were almost 4 physical guides sitting at each direction. Yeah. Providing counsel, like I'm,
That's
almost like the old Superman movies where, he goes in front of the council of, of Krypton or whatever. Like it
totally,
like that idea of wisdom. The power of that ritual is just something else. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. So should we pull a card?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to shuffle.
Yes. Do you want to go first, Nancy?
No, you go first.
Okay. You want me to go first?
All right.
I'll go first.
You go, Bonnie. You go first.
I'm going to use your friend, Barbara Moore's Steampunk Tarot. We interviewed Barbara a few weeks ago, and she was
I listened to that. I loved it.
She's so
loved
awesome.
it.
She is awesome.
Yeah. So I got her Steampunk Tarot for Christmas. So I figured, there's like a beautiful energy between you and her. So I'm going to use that deck. Okay. What card am I going to pull? Okay. Oh, and before I do this, not that we're going to go into describing the cards, but Nancy, you have this uncanny ability to tap into energy. So you mentioned 2 cards today, just when you were talking. You mentioned the 6 of Cups and you mentioned the Chariot, and they were both part of my my daily draw today. So
wow. That's great.
So anyway, I just thought I'd be like, I just have to tell Nancy that she was talking about cards that I actually picked for myself.
Totally.
Okay, so I got the Hierophant.
Oh, wow.
How do you pronounce this? Is it Hierophant? Hierophant?
Both. I've heard both.
I know. This one trips me out. But this is funny because this is like, I'm into numerology, so this is my life path number. So I identify very strongly as the Hierophant. And I love it in this deck because it shows him like a teacher as opposed to this more biblical or religious symbol. He's sitting down and there's 2 children in front of him. It's got the keys. There's books to the side. So I love the energy of this card because it makes me feel like it gives you an invitation to really question your belief system and what kind of like what we were talking about earlier today. It's like those traditions and that belief system that you've always had. Does that really resonate with you? Like, is it time to actually look for something that is more in alignment with how you feel? Or maybe it still does truly resonate for you. So I think it's just a time to question those teachings that we were always told and then give us our own authority to believe what we really want to believe and to follow the path of what makes the most sense for us at the time. I also see it as a card of teaching. So like going out and discovering all of those like esoteric teachings or, different ways of thinking and bringing that back and sharing that with people in a way that's really, like everyday language, right? Like in a way that people can really resonate with that. So I love that card. I've also, in Chris Ann's The Light Seers deck, I think she refers to it as like being your own guru. And also like, Yeah, like knowing that you have the wisdom within you too, and whatever you're in search, like whatever you want to go and search for is available for you. And it's up to you to decide what path that you want to take. And you don't have to be so bound to traditions and beliefs if that's not something that's resonating with you anymore. So that's kind of my quick and dirty
Yeah.
view.
I was just thinking while you were talking too, it was like, wow, all the fives and all the minors really kind of suck.
And that's me.
They're hard.
It's challenging. Yeah.
So the archetype is totally clear and real, but putting that the fives are chaotic in the real world, in the elemental world.
Yeah, but you're right. But they have a different energy in the kind of, upper.
Absolutely. Like it all pulls together in that upper level.
Yeah. But it's still that the Hierophant is still not without, I still think that there's an element of challenge when the Hierophant causes us, as Bonnie was saying, when it causes us to question perhaps our tradition or our belief system. So I think I think there can be a bit of pushback with that five too. Right? That Hierophant card there was a deck I was looking at, and the creator was saying how much it was the Urban Tarot, and they were saying how much there are times that they really don't like that Hierophant card. And I'm like, I can see that where, there would be confrontation with orthodoxy or with traditional views that might cause us to go, wait a minute, or I don't resonate with that, or I don't connect with that. So
that's right. The way I've gotten to love the Hierophant is I don't have to innovate. It's like, no, you don't have to create from nothing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, what are you already doing that's already working? Like expand on that. So it made me respect templates differently. No, you don't have to be a rebel everywhere. Some templates just work.
Work within, it's like coloring within the lines, right? Work within the system that's there.
Right.
Yeah, that to me,
so that comes up when I'm reading for people with jobs. It's like, yeah, I know you want to be an entrepreneur, but I got to tell you that university job with really good benefits might be the way to go right now. Yeah. It's more they're traditional rather than conservative.
Right.
Another. Well, oh my God, I didn't look at my card, but I'm going to look at it. The Three of Swords.
Oh, wow, there you go.
What deck are you using, Nancy?
Oh, this is the Golden Rider.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she aged so beautifully. Not all cards age really good, but this one did. But the Three of Swords, what I love about the Three of Swords is that right away you think heartbreak because it's like breaking your heart. But it's like if it was really heartbreak, there would be 3 cups underneath the heart. Like the swords to me represent thoughts. So these are thoughts that are causing heartbreak.
Oh my God, you're speaking my language.
Right?
That's what I say for the Three of Swords all the time.
All the time. They really, and a lot of times I'll see that in a certain framework, I'll see that as grief. But mostly it's kind of like, what do you believe that's limiting the way that you can love? What conditions are, because I don't see blood either. It's so old. It's just like, there's no blood. This isn't fresh, so this is old conditioning, and what is, or, if I'm reading for a young woman, she wants to fall in love and this comes up, it's like, girl, we got to resolve the ones that you did love before because you're going in with that baggage, but I'm thinking, I kind of thought of the collective when I pulled the card. And I do think Americans are really, they're just withdrawing like crazy from mainstream. We're not watching news like we used to. We're not, it's like, okay, we're pulling back. But what really struck me is if Kamala got in, there's a whole root of our tree that is sick. And if Kamala got in, I think it would have just prolonged the pain. This way, now we're going to go head first into the pain, and we're not going to come out the same, that's for sure, no matter what. But it's like, to me, this is the year of the hermit too. 2025 is the year of the hermit. So it's kind of like, how do you withdraw and not shut down? How do you observe and not react?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that it's like, oh, we have a ways to go working with our racism and working with the later stages of capitalism and working with oligarchies. We have a way to go, but it's kind of like, well, as a collective, how do we? It's like, no, we're not going to feed this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So how do you do that? I think the hermit is coming in. The hermit and the moon. Those are the two major arcana for 2025.
Right.
And then the Chinese totem, which is the earth snake. So it's like, oh my God, I feel like you just need more animal and plant kingdom if you can, and less human kingdom if possible.
Wow.
Not all of us are in the position to do that, but if you can,
Right,
it's like that would help the grid.
Yeah, it's why, and I think when I think of that card, I often think of the idea of pain, which is a part of life. We can't.
Right.
Pain is not something that we can avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Where versus suffering, which is actually for many, they're not all, but for many, suffering is a choice, a mental choice. When you talk about the idea of the Three of Swords,
right?
Suffering is a state that we allow ourselves to go into as a result of pain. But it is not, the Three of Swords is there to remind us it's not the only option, right? The response to pain doesn't have to be suffering. It can be something else. It can be advocacy. It can be action. It can be retreat. It can be all kinds of different things.
That's right. That's exactly, yeah.
I love that, Nancy. So as I said, you're like speaking my language with the Three of Swords. I think about it as the stories that we create in our mind, because we think about the threes are creation, they're creativity. Yeah. What are we making up in our head that's causing us so much pain and heartbreak, right? And when you were talking about pulling that card for the collective, I had the thought, like, I've been speaking to a lot of like our American friends, and so many people have gotten off of social media right now. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I wonder if whatever, is going on right now is helping people to step back from all the noise that we're constantly consuming on a daily basis. And that's filling our head with fear and, all the things. Right. So maybe being able, like maybe that Three of Swords is like saying like, hey, like it's time to step back from the news and social media so that you can have a break from that onslaught of anxiety and stress and heartbreak that, people are really devastated by this. So
and we haven't even started yet. Yeah. But when you just said that, I went, oh, it's like the Three of Swords stepping back into the Empress garden. She's the three. So it's like, okay, what if I was more connected? What if I didn't get jacked up in fear? Because that really just depletes our creative energy.
Yeah.
That's all it does. It just takes the wind right out of your sails. Who'd you get, Peter?
So I did. So I was shuffling and then drew as and so the first thing I'll do is I'll talk about the deck. So the deck I used Isabella Rotman's the This Might Hurt Tarot.
Oh, I've heard of that.
I drew the King of Wands, and actually we were talking about it it's a beautiful deck. It is a beautiful deck. And part of the reason I wanted to use it's because in our last episode with Megan Wellsbury, we had talked about it being one of our favorite decks, and the name puts people off. And it is such a stunning deck done in kind of the Rider-Waite Smith style, but with a much almost softer, certainly a much more inclusive approach. So I drew the King of Wands, right? Passion, creativity, ingenuity, inspiration, drive, all those wands things. And I even think sometimes, we hear about the major arcana sort of being the big hero's journey. I often think the wands they can sometimes represent our own personal hero's journey, where we bring fire to our life. And I think the king here, she, and I love this as well, because again, we don't focus, this is a deck that doesn't focus on traditional, even a traditional binary. It's a much more gender fluid deck. Kings are as often male represent or female, or at times even gender neutral, but she's tending her fire here. So she's watching over it. And I get the sense that she's actually waiting for community to join her on this journey. She's got a story to tell, and she's getting ready to share this narrative. And I often think, I'll put the card down now. I often think this, with the King of Wands, is this is an outward facing leader. Now, I've talked about being a school principal, and I would remember when I would mentor principals, which to me I think is from in a school is an outward facing leadership role. And I would say, every thing that you do, every organization, every place that leads has a story. And it is the King of Wands' job to tell the passion story of where they're coming from. Because if the King of Wands doesn't, somebody else will, right? So I think like this is, if this is a CEO, then this is the CEO of a company called Passion Inc. And then I look at this card and I think like it's oranges and yellows and reds. Like you can't miss the fire in this card. So yeah, to me, I think, this is a card that invites us to lead, to tell our passion story, to talk about, what creative endeavors we have to really kind of put ourselves out there. Yeah, that's it. That's what I have for the King of Wands. So, I said, anybody who is kind of put off by the name of this deck, that this might hurt tarot, I would urge you to go. And so I think it's mass produced now by Liminal 11, but the deck I've got is one that Isabella Rotman was actually selling.
Actually, that's that alone is a spell, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be interesting. The people that don't pick that deck just because of the title don't need that deck.
Fair point, actually. Yeah.
Like that's actually putting out an antennae right away. This is the signal. It's like, listen, if you're going to be uncomfortable, this is not the deck to get. I like that. It separates the boys from the men.
I'm telling you, I'd never you just, thank you for shifting how you think about this. Such a valid point. You're right that, that for some, this might hurt. And if it puts you off.
Yeah. Because there's so many.
Yeah.
There are so many beautiful decks that just don't read for me. They just, I'm not a big buyer anyhow. I knew from the get-go, I could use all the money I make from tarot readings to buy beautiful decks. So I had to limit myself from the beginning and just go, no.
Oh, yeah? How do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, do you have a spell for that? Do you have a ritual for that?
Yeah, seriously. Like if it doesn't work with someone, if it doesn't work for me to read for I only have like 3 or 4 decks that are just for me. I don't read them for anyone else. But everything else, I have like maybe, I don't know, at the most 30 decks. But they are revolving a lot. They're being used. I call them the farm horses. No more parade horses. I can't just do the pretty ones that really inspire me. It's like, no, they either work for people or they don't, and so very rarely do I even buy a new deck. It really has to jump at me to kind of go, you absolutely need me in the lineup.
Wow.
I need to harness that energy.
Yep,
oh my God. My friend has 350 decks.
Yeah. I know. Well, I know we were just talking about somebody, we share in common, and I know what their tarot deck collection looked like back in, 2010.
And wouldn't that be lovely to have a beautiful collection? But
totally.
I have a working collection.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Get a channel and embody that. So thank you.
So Nancy, do you want to share with us what you have coming up? Because you have some exciting
I do. I have
events.
2 big events. Well, first of all, if you're in the Twin Cities area, I always do the Tarot Lab the second Sunday of every month. So, and it's donation, what according to your budget, what feels comfortable. And then February 8th, we're doing the Human Being. That's an old 60s thing. Like, let's be humans, and to me, the whole thing, religion, spirituality, all these tools are just for us to be the magnificent humans we can be while we're here. That's it. We are already magnificent spirits. So it's like, how do you be the magnificent human? So every year we do the Human Being, and on Saturday, February 8th. Again, donation based, but it's our fundraiser for the Twin Cities Tarot Collective. It helps us do the meetups and things like that. And we're going to have 9 presenters talking about the Hermit, the Moon, and or Valentine's, which will be right around that corner. And it's a cyber day, but you'll have the recording for the rest of the year. So it's like you can't go wrong. You know, it's really, all the presentations are about a half hour. So Sasha, James, you know, like, the people, I just threw a big net out there for people that are, I know could be inspiring or bring something really intensely juicy for a half hour.
Well, that's
so
fantastic.
that's that. And then, and I'll give you the links for the tctarotcollective.com. You can do all of that through the website. And then May 17th through the 19th, I'm doing a retreat. I used to do the North Star Tarot Conference for 16 years, which was birthed after Reader Studio. After I went to Reader Studio, I realized, a lot of folks here don't have the money to get on to New York, spend that. It was like, yeah, that'd be like $1,500 after all is said and done and it was worth it, but I needed to offer something that my local folks could do. So we've done this North Star Tarot Conference, which always had about 60 people core. And we've turned it now into a small retreat for 22. And there's only 5 openings left for that. And it's called the North Star Tarot Retreat. And Farrell Humphrey she's kind of the consistent teacher teaching the wild Kabbalah. So not the traditional Kabbalah, but the Kabbalah from, again, more like the way I work, more in a more organic, unique, personal way to see what it would trigger in your personal way.
Right.
And so that's going to be fun. I'm going to do hermit rituals, and we're just going to be real hermits is what we're going to be. So, and that one is a little bit more expensive because we're asking everyone to actually be on site. So, but the retreat itself, the cost of the retreat, but also room and board. So, and it's a beautiful center, at the most would be about 500, depending on what kind of room you pick.
Okay. Wow.
And then your own transportation costs. So,
Right.
And you said 5 spots
it's still
left?
a good cost.
And you said there are only 5 spaces left. Is that the one?
Yeah, there's only 5 spots left.
So
I already checked it out, Nancy, but so my eldest daughter, Samantha, she's in competitive dance. And as you probably know, like in the springtime, it's like full on competition. And she has a competition that weekend. I thought, oh, that's too bad. She's graduating this year. So maybe if you do another one next year, I might be.
Heather Lee is doing a really beautiful conference in Detroit, and she's going to start around Memorial. And I don't know what the name of that conference is, but Heather Lee she's an incredibly smart business person and a community organizer. So she's going to do hers on Memorial Weekend. So we're going to switch after this year. We're going to switch to fall. So in the fall of 26, we'll continue. So hopefully you can catch the fall one of 26.
Could be. Bonnie, that could be a long road trip for you and I, actually.
Yeah.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm in.
Totally.
Jump in the car. Away we go.
Yeah.
All right. Look,
go
sorry. No, Bonnie,
No,
go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, we'll put it in the show notes, Nancy, but where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to follow you?
Yes.
I think betweenworlds.us is just a great place. You can always contact me through my website. And then I have these events listed there too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
how about you, Peter? What do you have going on?
It's a quiet period for me right now. It's so quiet that I actually just recently put a blog post up on my website, which, as people who will follow me know, I don't do that often. The easiest place to find out what I've got going on. And I'm currently developing a history of tarot course, which I'm hoping in Q2 will be ready to go.
Wow, cool.
Yes, the best place to find out what I've got going on is at peterwhitetarot.com or Peter White Tarot on any of those social networks. So that's what I've got going on. Bonnie, let's finish off with what you've got happening.
Thank you. So I'm starting a brand new series. It's going to be a monthly series right now, but it's called The Soul's Journey, Meet the Majors. And every month we're going to focus on a different major arcana card. So we're going to talk about the energy of that card. Do some journaling, maybe create an intention based on, the symbolism of that card for the month. And then I'm going to walk people through a guided meditation to meet the archetype and see what kind of messaging you're going to get. So I love teaching meditation and I love tarot. So this is my way of bringing them together. And even people that don't read tarot are welcome to come because it's really working with that archetype and not just learning about tarot. So if you want to check that out, it's on my website, which is breathewithbonnie.com. And sometimes I go on social media. So I'm on Instagram at breathewithbonnie, but the best place is my website. So
excellent.
To those of you who, took the time today to either watch or listen, we want to say a massive thank you. We want to remind you that it's always helpful for us to share this podcast with other people who you think would enjoy learning the tarot. We ask you as well, submit your questions. We've got hopefully a Q&A episode coming up shortly where we will respond to questions that our listeners submit. Always very helpful for you to leave us a positive review, to subscribe, or to like. Nancy, we can't thank you enough. This has been both an enjoyable and a learning experience for both of us. As we'll tell you, as we tell all of our guests, there's an open invitation anytime that you want to come and join Bonnie and I here.
I would love that. Let's do a spring one.
Perfect. We're saying yay, and we know that people who are listening right now are saying yay too. With that, again, I will say a massive thank you and so long to everyone. Bye for now.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.